Do you want to increase your video clarity during your next video conference? Or up your camera's resolution? Then the Anker PowerConf C200 might be what you're looking for. I'm Wanderer001. Let's get into it. If you are familiar with Logitech and their webcams, this might look a little different. It's much boxier than a Logitech webcam at 2 inches by 1 inch by 2 inches. It's going to take up quite a bit of space. As we walk around the webcam itself, you can see here on the right and left side, there are some ventilation ports to help keep the camera itself cool. Along the back here, we have a deep channel for a USB-C type port, and the cableage that we get with this is a USB-C to A, which is just shy of being 5 feet in length. If we come to the bottom, we can see that there is a tripod mount, so if we wanted to, we could screw this in and have better placement of it. And then if we open things up, we do have a rubber foot to help cushion this on your screen. And then the other side, there's a lip with a little rubber there as well. You also have a limited amount of angling that you can do. It's not the best that I've tested. However, it does, in my dual monitor setup, allow me to kind of place this a little better. If we come to the front, you'll see that there's this red right there, and that's actuated by this lever up top. This is actually a manual privacy screen, which I really appreciate. There is an LED light right here on the front that will turn on and off when the camera is engaged or disengaged, but I like seeing that giant red dot staring me in the face, letting me know, hey, your camera is off, you should open up your view to let people see you. The lens itself is a f2.0 with a large aperture, allowing it to have what Anker touts as their super low light visibility using this webcam, which allows you to not have to use a light ring to get a picture from this in lower light situations. We'll touch on that a little more with testing. The webcam itself also has autofocusing. Again, Anker states within just half a second will allow you to autofocus with something that comes into frame or moves or gets closer or moves away from the camera. You are looking at 2K resolution at 1920 by 1080 with a changeable field of view anywhere from 95 degrees at the default setting, 78 degrees, and then down to 65 degrees. You are also looking at 30 frames a second, which again is part of the reason why this is going to outclass any other people that you're in a web conference with for video clarity. I can attest to that. I've gotten comments about that in my meetings. Down here, we also have, on either side of the LED status light, these are dual microphones with AI stereo pickup, meaning, yes, you are going to have stereo audio, but you can also change whether you have 360 degree audio or narrowing that to 90 degrees just being in front of the webcam itself. And there are some AI smarts that help increase the audio clarity. Now, you can use this webcam as a purely plug and play solution, and it does okay, but if you use the Anker Work software combined with this webcam, you can actually change some of the audio as well as those field of views that I was talking about and some general picture adjustments. That's all done through the Anker Work application. Let's take a look. This is the Anker Work application on desktop for Windows for the Anker PowerConf C200. And yes, you can see me reading off the box there, so I actually remember what I'm doing. The webcam itself is situated further back than I normally would for it, but it's attached to my day job workstation at home, and I'm using the audio from the webcam itself to give you an idea of what it could be like at this range. If you want better audio, which I'm not going to clean up this segment like I normally do, you're going to need something like these over here. I have 2 different Yeti mics that I've used in the past for my tutorial style videos. Anytime you see me more recently do a screen capture, I'm using this guy right here. I'll have links to the dedicated review videos for them if you're interested. The first thing I'm going to do is take us off the device settings page because right now it's in its default state. Nothing has been changed. This is what it will film at
right out of the box. And if you don't install this software, like I can't on my work computer, this is how things are going to appear. But if I come over to my image settings, I'm going to turn on this one right here, which is optimizing brightness. And you could see it kind of mutes things a little more. It doesn't blow them out as much. One of the good and bad things about this particular webcam is its low light capacity, but then things look washed out if you don't start playing with your features here. We are under our video settings. By default, you're going to have a 2K resolution for this, and that's why it's sharper than most other webcams that people will be using for your web conferences. I know I have the sharpest looking camera in all of my Zoom meetings now, but we can downgrade this to 1080p. Here we go. It's trying to autofocus on me. Drop it down to 720. We'll get that to autofocus one more time. If you still want to be considered HD, but not necessarily use up a whole lot of bandwidth, and then 360p, you're going to, so get that to focus, really notice that it starts to get blocky and pixelated. Honestly, unless you're using old school dial-up, I don't see why you would actually go down that far. We're just going to get that to focus. Again, I am further away than you normally would be from a web camera, but here we have our different angle frames that we can do for this. This is the 95 degree. This is going to give you the full view of what this camera can do. But if I wanted to cut out some of that mess, I can limit this to 78 degrees. Notice it also pushes it so I look closer to the camera itself. Now, this is not using optical zoom, it's using digital zoom. So when I bring it into 65 degrees and it starts cutting off my head, you're also going to notice pixelation around the stuff in the background here looks a little more blurry than it did at the 78 degree or even at the 95 degree. That's because it's cutting and using compression algorithms to zoom in. It's useful if you have to show something right up close to the camera, but if you're trying for video quality over closeness, I would stick to either the 95 or the 78 degree. And then right here, we have our anti-flicker. If I turn on anti-flicker, we can choose between the 50 hertz and the 60 hertz. If you have a light source and you're in another country, they all operate at different hertz rates. So you might get a little flickering. If I turn on my studio light back there, maybe change it over to 50 hertz, 60 hertz. All right. Don't have to worry about hertz rates so much where I am. But if you needed to, that's where you could change it. Now, if we come over to our image, yes, I turned off the crazy brightness from before, but if I turn that back on, give it a chance to focus, you can see the different looks between the two. I can also have some level of manual control. So if I wanted to step down the brightness, and notice that it will not show you the change until you remove your finger from the cursor. So there is some level of customization that you could do here to try and fix the way that your image looks. However, it's not, I'm looking a little red there. It's not going to be as customizable as using some other third-party software. And if you really screw up and don't remember, you could simply select the reset button and it'll put everything back to where it was. I showed you what the optimized brightness does. It lowers this super washed out look that I have going because it's looking for as much light as it can get, which is really good in low light situations, but not so much in this situation. And here we have auto white balancing. I can turn that off and then select anywhere between 2300 Kelvin up to 6500 Kelvin. So depending on the look that I want to go for, I can really kind of yellow this out, or I can really tint it blue. And again, reset or turn it off if you don't remember. So we'll leave that on autofocus. As you saw me fighting with the camera occasionally, because again, I'm farther back than I should be from this type of camera, I can turn off autofocus and then select where I'd like the focal point to be. And then again, this is going to be you dialing it in depending on what you're doing. So right here is about the distance from where I am to the camera. I could scooch that all the way up and have to have something really close. Honestly, just keep the autofocus on, especially if you move around a lot like I do and gesture with my hands. It's a good option to have. Flip horizontal. Well, you saw me a couple times reaching over this way because I thought this light was over my shoulder because things are reversed. But if I flip horizontally, well, now I know, even though it's showing a mirrored image, as you can see from my shirt, from what it says, I now know this is over my left-hand shoulder and this is over on the right-hand side. Could help your brain kind of comprehend where things are if you're looking at the screen like I am. Last but not least is our pickup mode. You have 360-degree stereo microphones, or you have the 90-degree stereo microphone. The 90-degree is going to have a cone kind of pointed right in front of it, allowing you to kind of cut down some of the background noise. It's not going to cut down right in front of the webcam, which you'll hear a little later, but it will cut down a little bit on the surrounding noise coming from off camera. Now, it's both good and bad because it does kind of tones it down, but I'll show you that a little later in the testing. That has been all the settings that we can change for this web camera using AnkerWorks application.
Now that we've seen everything that we can do with the application for this webcam, what's next? Well, that's testing of actual footage from the webcam, as well as audio. What I will say is during my testing, everything was done using the default settings of the webcam. I didn't want to manipulate anything in any way, shape, or form. And what I can say is while things do look a little on the more blown out side, by default, it is still a very serviceable picture that you get from this. Let's take a look.
This is a video example of something that you can expect from the webcam. Here I have it showing me on screen in the Anker work, only because I want to be able to quickly show you the difference between video examples in daylight. I just have natural light coming in from the windows behind me. If I change the optimal brightness, it will lower that down. I'll turn that back on so you get to see what that is. And then we'll even come in here and change the aspect ratio. So 78 and 65. Here is an example of a low light situation. I really am only being illuminated by my laptop in front of me and then sunset in the background. There are no other lights in this room. And this is the 95-degree angle. If I do the 78, kind of shows a little pixelated. 65, much more pixelated, much more noticeable at night in low light. We're going to bounce that back out. We're going to come over to our picture and then optimize brightness. We're going to kick that on. And apparently it's not going to do much because it's already doing what it needs to do in this low light situation. This honestly is an extreme test. Same situation I was in before, except I closed the window behind me, so all that's illuminating me is the light from my computer screen. And you can kind of see me, but you can also kind of see it's definitely having problems staying focused. I mean, I can do the cut in at 78 and then the cut in at 65, but you can see it's having trouble like differentiating my mouth movements because I'm definitely talking more than it's visually showing. But realistically, this is just an extreme test. This is not something that you actually do in any way, shape, or form. Here we are a little more optimally lit. I have my 2 spotlights going that I normally use when I'm filming tabletop reviews for YouTube. We're going to come in here and we're going to go from the 95 to the 78 to the 65. You can see definitely more definition here than we had before when we were doing in complete darkness. We're going to come over here. We're going to toggle off the optimized brightness. You can see kind of mutes the tones a little bit, but that's okay. This is another situation that you might find yourself in with backlights. I have a light over there and a light over there. So my face is kind of dark and hard to see because I don't have the lights coming towards me. But again, these are different lighting scenarios that you get an idea of how well this can do. This is our 95. If I come in, here's our 78 and then our 65. We're going to back that out to the 95 again. Come over here. We're going to play with our optimal white balance here. And you can see it really gets dark when I do that. Key that back up and you can kind of see it tries to brighten my face up a little bit. This is another lighting example. I have a ring light where the camera is in the middle of, and you can see it's really shining up my face. That's just not very great to look at, but there you can see my glasses, the ring light itself. And this is our 95. Here's our 78. Coming in, here's our 65. We're going to pull that back out for the 95. And then we're going to change our optimal brightness to kind of mute things up a little bit. And then switch it back so you get an idea. And this is going to be our last lighting example. I have my 2 spotlights on in front of me, and I have the 2 lights on in the back of me. Just, again, different lighting situations. Here's the 95 look, here's the 78, and here is the 65. Oh, we're gonna come over here, we're gonna adjust the white balance. There you go, definitely takes things down in the back.
Well, now that we see what the video looks like in several different lighting situations, what about autofocus? How well does this autofocus on something coming into frame? Let me show you.
All right, so these are going to be some autofocus tests at 2K and then the full view. So focuses on me perfectly fine. We've got these power core. So it's trying to keep everything behind it in focus as well. There we go. Pull it back, flip it around, and kind of focus on some words. So it is focusing better now. You can see the background's kind of blurred too. Not sure if you can hear me very well, but that's a focal test on the box. Here we've got another thing for it to focus on. Okay, blur in the background. Pull it back quick, move it in quick. Back, side, side, pushing. Okay, there's that one. And now more of a physical object. Yeah, since this one's not taking up quite as much view, there's more stuff in the background for it. So we are going to pull the view in and see if that'll help it. Need something bigger or like the box, take up more film space in order for it to focus a little better. Where you do the classic, hold your hand up behind. Again, I'm stretching really far because I'm situated kind of back. But that was a focus test.
With all of our visuals out of the way, well, it's got dual microphone with AI and an ability to go from 360 to 90-degree audio. So let me show you some audio tests that I ran.
Testing Anker audio, 360-degree mode. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test. And this is the keyboard test. And keyboard test while talking. If you can hear me or the keyboard, that will be an interesting sight to see or hear. And then audio test for behind the camera.
Testing off-camera audio, 1, 2, 3.
Testing audio Anker webcam, 90-degree audio mode. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test. Keyboard test. Keyboard test while talking to see if you can hear the clacky clack and the keyboard and my voice at the same time. And then off-camera audio for the 90-degree test.
Testing off-camera audio, 1, 2, 3.
Even though this is a solid webcam, it is not without its shortcomings, and first and foremost for me is all of those extras, meaning limiting the field of view, turning off the auto white balancing, turning on the 90-degree audio. That's all done through the Anker application. And if you're like me and your IT locks down your work computer, you're not going to be able to access any of that unless you convince your IT group to add another piece of third-party software, which they're probably not going to want to do. That's why all the tests that I ran were using it in its default state. Another thing to consider, while the camera is good in low-light situations, they do compensate heavily to make it brighter in all circumstances. Again, by default, out of the box. So unless you're going to go into the application or a third-party app, which again, if you're using a work computer, you might not be able to do, just know that your picture is going to look a little more washed out than you might be used to seeing. Yes, Zoom allows you to make some changes to mitigate something like that, but these are data points that I want you to be aware of when considering this webcam. Overall, if you're looking for a reasonably priced alternative to some of the more well-known manufacturers in the webcam market, this will be well worth your time, especially if you can get it on sale. While a great deal of the functions do need to be accessed through the application, out of the box, it is a perfectly serviceable webcam and comes in at a better price point than a lot of its competitors. If this sounds like the webcam you've been looking for, I will have a link where you can pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making a comprehensive video like this, make sure to hit that like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure if this is the right webcam for you? On screen now, you'll see 2 other video reviews that I've done to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.